Okay, well, I've got 11 pages of notes here, but my wife told me that I should try to cut it down to stuff that actually has something that might be of interest. TAM is the conference of the James Randi Educational Foundation. Happens every year in Las Vegas, and it's usually over 4 days, just with tons of speakers talking about skepticism and debunking all the woo, as they call it out there, all the so-called paranormal phenomena, and also talking about quack medicine and things like Reiki and acupuncture, chiropractic, or as I like to call it, chiroquactic. Anyway, this time there was 1,100 attendees with 52 sessions that you could attend. There was sort of parallel tracks on Thursday, so you couldn't attend everything. The first one I went to was how your camera lies to you, and there they talked about the orbs and the rods and all those things that people point to. People who don't know anything about optics or physics point to as proof of the paranormal. You take a picture and there's nothing there, just your grandma. And then when you develop it, or these people tend to still develop their films, but even if you look at it on your computer, you'll see a big bright object in there and say, well, that's a ghost, right? So anyway, they explain how all those things work, so that was sort of interesting. The next panel of interest was supporting skepticism around the world, where they had a panel of people talking about what was happening in countries other than the United States and Canada. The most interesting one of that was Leo Igwe from Nigeria, who's doing good work to combat belief in demon possession and witchcraft, which is causing havoc amongst women and children in Africa, in part thanks to the evangelical Christians who are, what the effect of their work is that the craziness of their belief gets mixed with the craziness of the local superstitions, and you wind up with things like exorcisms that kill young children or cause them to be abandoned by their families. So anyway, that was interesting. The other thing that the other person who spoke there was Salam. Let's see if I can get his name right here. Sanal Adamaruku, who is an Indian skeptic. He's his most recent claim to fame. He's been around for a while, but there was this statue in his town in India that was leaking water, and people were drinking this water, and it was a miracle, and it was supposed to make them feel good, or whatever the hell drinking holy water is supposed to do for you. Anyway, he did an investigation of that and found that it was water leaking from a nearby sewer. So it was toilet water that was leaking down the wall, and then by compelled reaction coming up to this nail and then coming out. And people were drinking this. So he pointed out that this is what was going on. And all of a sudden, the contributions from the faithful to this church dried up, so to speak. Because for some reason people don't want to drink sewage water. Can't imagine why. Anyway, that, as if that wasn't bad enough, the local bishop, the Catholic bishop, said, oh, we need to be less tolerant of people who are insulting our religion. And he insisted that this guy be arrested. He called the cops and said, basically, arrest this guy for insulting our religious belief. And as if that wasn't bad enough, he then, the local Catholics hired gangsters to assassinate him, so now he's living in Finland. Anyway, meanwhile, he's the leader of a rationalist group in India with 130,000 members, which I thought that was pretty damn impressive, considering that, where we are here. Okay. One of the things they had was a panel on science-based medicine with the people from the Skeptic's Guide to the Universe podcast, which I highly recommend. I've left a few copies of my notes there, so where you can look up the links if you want to get at it. Anyway, they talked about the difference between evidence-based medicine and science-based medicine, and there's a sort of a movement of basically testing all sorts of bullshit medical modalities, like Reiki and acupuncture and all that. And what their point of them was saying is that you have to have some appreciation of the prior probabilities. Like, for instance, homeopathy, where you might have diluting, you take a poison that's supposed to cause a problem and the idea is to cure that problem. You take that poison and dilute it to such an extent that the probability of there even being one molecule in the resulting diluted substance is like 1 in several trillion. And so there's absolutely no plausibility to that, and yet people are studying it, are still wasting time studying it, saying, well, does it really work or does it not work? You know, and anyway, so that was one of the things to talk about there. Okay. Another interesting panel was...
Ullrich, what's the difference between science-based and evidence-based? I'd like to know how they differentiate those two things.
Okay, well, the science-based medicine people actually look at the prior probabilities. They're certainly in favor of testing things like, you know, new drugs that are coming up,
Okay.
where there is some plausibility, where maybe an animal study or somebody looked at a protein that is similar to something that works in another context and we want to test it. That makes sense to do. But science-based medicine just basically says, oh, we've got to be open-minded, and whatever bullshit comes along, we've got to test it.
You said science.
Oh, sorry, yeah, evidence-based medicine, right.
Yeah.
You know, basically they're saying if there's any evidence, if anybody comes up and says, hey, this worked for my grandma, you know, there's evidence, then it's worth testing it. And, you know, their position on that is
So you have to integrate base rates, like
it's
like placebo effect and
right,
course
exactly.
of the illness,
Yeah.
how many people get better at this by chance.
Yeah, it's sort of the Bayesian approach, you know, where you start with a prior probability and you factor that in, and then, you know, before you...
Science, they call that science.
Exactly.
Okay.
Barbara Drescher and Kyle Hill had a presentation on rationality, the two methods of thinking, the fast intuitive method versus the slower logical method, and they have an example, which I don't... Oh, okay. maybe I won't go over that, because... okay, let's see what else we've got here. James Randi and Jamie Ian Swiss, who is a practicing stage magician, spoke about the concept of the honest liar, you know, where you make use of they make use of their intensive knowledge of human perceptive systems, your sensory system, how your brain interprets what input you're getting from your eyes. They make use of the foibles in those systems to perform entertaining tricks, you know, where you make cars disappear or all sorts of things. But they always explain that this is not magic. This is not paranormal. It's not, you know, they don't really have magical powers. It's just, you know, we're fooling you. Anybody can be fooled. I think that was the key thing there. Good.
One more.
Okay, let's see. Oh, yeah, maybe I'll talk a bit. I'll talk a bit more about Sanel and Maruku, because that really was the most impressive session there. In addition to having this Indian rationalist movement with 130,000 members, he had to contend with the argument from, in addition to the Catholic bishops in that area arguing that he was insulting the religion and should be imprisoned for it, and in fact should be murdered. They claimed that water never goes up. You know, it's like, you know, insisting on complete ignorance of the existence of the capillary reaction. Anyway, maybe I'll just leave that. Okay, yeah, let's get on to